For many in California, the holiday season has arrived under emergency alerts.
For many in Southern California, this Christmas was quite...
What if tomorrow doesn't come the way you expect it to? When America, the symbol of strength and order, suddenly starts shaking from landslides, floods, huge tornadoes, and strange behavior from all kinds of animals, the things we're used to begin to crack and fall apart. It's not just one accident, not some rare event, but one blow after another, like they're coming down from above, signaling that a time of chaos is starting. 10 moments will come one by one, swallowing everything up, exploding right in front of you, like 10 chapters in a modern book of Revelation. Reports from the USGS and NWS show disasters in America are shooting up. Atmospheric rivers drowning California, dust devils rising in the desert, animals acting like they know something we haven't figured out yet. You think this is just coincidence? Or maybe the final warning? Keep going. Because right after this, the veil of truth will be lifted, and the deep messages from God will be revealed, bit by bit. We can't wait any longer. We're going to start right now with 1. Major landslide from heavy rain. The air before the disaster wasn't loud. It felt heavy, like holding your breath too long. Down in Southern California, the sky stayed low and gray, with rain coming down steady for days. In that uneasy feeling, you could really sense how fragile things we think are solid can be. No one was yelling, no sirens going off, just this chilling gut feeling that something was waiting behind the curtain of rain. And then, the mountains started to move. In the Santa Monica Mountains, where the steep land is used to wind and rain, all that water from the atmospheric river storms soaked the ground until it couldn't hold any more. According to the USGS, landslides in California have been happening more often in recent years, wrecking hundreds of miles of highways and leaving thousands without homes. But in that moment, the numbers didn't matter, because what was happening right there felt like a force way beyond anything people could control. The rain poured down hard, and suddenly, a huge section of the mountain, hundreds of feet across, shuddered and broke away, crashing straight down onto the road below. Dirt and rocks rolled like waves, smashing everything in the way, with dust rising up so thick it blocked the sky. It wasn't just a landslide. It was the kind of sight that leaves you standing there quiet, watching nature act like it's punishing something unseen. In that instant, when the ground shook, an old warning seemed to echo. Luke 21:11. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events, and great signs from heaven. Once the dust settled, the experts spoke up. They talked about climate change, rainfall way above normal, ground saturated with water, and natural laws you can't avoid. It all sounded reasonable, scientific, comforting in a way. But then a quiet question pops into your head. If it's all just random, why do events like this keep piling up so fast? Right in that buildup, the words from the Bible shine a light on the unease again. Matthew 24:7. Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places. It doesn't stop there. The picture of the mountain collapsing brings to mind an even darker scene, where the natural order gets turned upside down completely. Revelation 6:12 warns, when he opened the sixth seal, there was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red. The Bible doesn't explain the how, but it names the fear we're feeling. This isn't just a disaster, it's a sign. The mountain has fallen, leaving behind a heavy silence and roads buried deep. This is a clear warning about how vulnerable we are to the power of nature, or maybe deeper, to the will of the Most High. And if even mountains can crumble in a flash, what will happen next when raging rivers rise up? 2. The bridge swept away by the flood. The bridge broke in half in just a few minutes, in a quiet outlying area of New Mexico, a place that hardly ever makes the national news. A small bridge over a local river suddenly vanished after a night of heavy rain. It wasn't in a big city or a popular tourist spot. It was one of those places that feels forgotten by the world. And that's what makes this event so chilling. Disaster doesn't pick famous places to start. The river, usually calm in that suburb, suddenly changed course when heavy rain from a rare atmospheric river system pushed deep inland. According to warnings from the National Weather Service in the Southwest, water levels rose faster than expected, climbing more than 20 feet in just hours in some spots, putting pressure way beyond what old structures could handle. Early damage reports ran into tens of millions of dollars. Roads were completely cut off, and many small communities were left isolated. Local officials issued urgent alerts, telling folks to stay away from rivers, streams, and bridges that night. Video from the scene showed muddy water rushing at nearly 30 miles an hour, taking down one section of the bridge before sweeping away the rest. Metal twisted like it was nothing. Concrete crumbled, and it all floated off like scraps of paper. In that moment, we weren't just watching a bridge collapse. We were seeing our belief that humans can control everything come crashing down. Psalm 93-3:4 hits home like a warning. The floods have lifted up, O Lord. The floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lift up their roaring. Mightier than the thunders of many waters, mightier than the waves of the sea. The Lord on high is mighty. Things quickly turned chaotic in the area. Rescue trucks couldn't get through. People were stranded on both sides of the river, and phone service went out. Luke 21:25 describes it perfectly. And there will be distress of nations in perplexity because of the roaring of the sea and the waves. When the waters start roaring, human order goes quiet right away. Of course, the debate started up fast. Some said the bridge was just too old, built for water flows that don't match today's reality. Others blamed outdated planning and slow warnings. Those points aren't wrong, and they deserve a fair look. But the big question hangs there. Do you think this is just one isolated mistake in a remote spot, or another piece in a chain of events spreading everywhere? From a faith perspective, this isn't just an infrastructure failure. Joel 2:30 says, "And I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood and fire and columns of smoke." When places nobody pays much attention to start shaking, the message seems clearer. No hidden corner is outside God's reach. That bridge in the outlying area is gone, like it never existed. And if even the quietest spots aren't safe anymore, what's waiting ahead when the flood hits busier roads? 3. The flood swallows a whole stretch of road. It all started in an eerie quiet. No sirens blaring, no loud warnings, just a wet road surface and a heavy sky holding back its anger. Then, in a split second, the ground shook and water came rushing in like a dam had burst, fierce and shocking enough to numb you. Have you ever thought a familiar road could vanish in just minutes? On Highway 101 inches, California, that vital coastal route, a sudden flood sliced right across the wide asphalt like a sharp cut. Gray water rose several feet high, white foam splashing everywhere, carrying off debris, mud, and cars that didn't get away in time. What used to stand for connection and travel turned into a deep, chaotic gash where people were helpless against the roaring force. Local authorities quickly sent out urgent alerts, closing the whole highway, evacuating folks in low areas, and telling everyone not to try crossing fast-moving water. According to major national news reports, cases of roads being washed away by floods in the U.S. have gone up about 50% over the past decade, especially in coastal spots prone to flash floods. It felt like Genesis 7:11-12 playing out in modern times. The springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were opened, and rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. The scene turned into one explosion after another, sections of road collapsing, swirling water carving deep holes like abysses. Locals said that in just seconds, the flow changed direction, charging across the roadway at terrifying speed, ignoring any usual paths. Matthew 24 to 38-39 echoed like an explanation. They knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. Weather experts explained it with heavy downpours piling up, steep coastal terrain, overloaded drainage systems, and flows forced sideways by man-made structures. In their view, when water has no natural outlet, it takes the shortest, strongest path, slicing through anything in the way. That reasoning sounds logical, cool, and spot on. But alongside a faith perspective, many folks can't ignore how these events are happening more often and strangely intense. Revelation 16:20 says, "Every island fled away, and the mountains could not be found." When nature seems to be rearranging everything, do you lean toward pure science or see this as a sign beyond numbers and models? It's hard to deny that Bible words are lighting up today's reality in a chilling way. The flood on Highway 101 didn't just wreck a road. It brought back memories of the Great Flood, like a warning that the end times might be closer than we think. And while the ground hasn't even healed yet, a scarier question looms ahead. Down in those deep oceans, what are the sea creatures whispering about the next disaster? For, under the ocean, rays school up and swim in a strange way. Off the California coast, the ocean has a different rhythm, like something's being passed along from the deep that our eyes can't reach. When big schools of fish start gathering, the question comes up naturally: what are they running from? In the cold waters of the Pacific, thousands of sardines suddenly bunch into one huge mass, swimming around in ways that don't follow the usual patterns. They swirl in circles, packed tight together, forming these odd vortexes that stretch for miles, like they're looking for shelter from some unseen threat. It's not the usual chaos of a hunt, more like a group evacuation, quiet but full of worry. According to PBS science shows, animals often pick up on environmental changes before we do, from shifts in water temperature or currents to magnetic fluctuations before big storms or earthquakes. Biologists say even a small change in temperature or oxygen levels can trigger mass migration behavior in fish. But this kind of sudden, synchronized movement still gives a lot of folks the chills. Hosea 4:3 says, "That's why the land will be desolate. Even the wild animals, birds of the sky, and fish of the sea will perish." The school keeps moving like it's guided by some invisible command. No bumping, no scattering, just sticking close like one single body. From a faith perspective, it brings to mind those Bible passages about creation groaning before major events. Joel 1:20 notes, "Even the beasts of the field pant for you," as if all living things sense what humans are still debating. Between the two views, science sees natural laws and survival instincts at work, while the Bible opens up another layer. Animals don't just react to the environment, they reflect the world's condition before God. Revelation 8-9 puts it plain. A third of the living creatures in the sea died, not as some theory, but as a foretold scene. So which truth do you lean toward? That this is just the fallout from climate change and ocean currents? Or that God is using even the humblest creatures as quiet messengers, reminding us that Judgment Day is drawing near? Both views sit side by side, but only one touches that deepest fear inside us. When the ocean's already restless, and the creatures below start speaking in their own way, faith isn't a luxury anymore. It's the last compass we have. And if the seas sent the first signal, what other mysteries is the night sky above us getting ready to reveal? 5. The night sky covered in strange green light. The night sky wasn't quiet anymore. It spoke up in a way nobody was ready for. Out in the Midwest of the United States, as soon as darkness fell, the whole sky suddenly turned this unreal blue-green color, cold, eerie, and out of place, like someone had ripped open the familiar curtain of the universe. In that moment, you couldn't look away, because the sky itself seemed to be staring right back at you. The green light spread out wide, not flashing like fireworks or soft like the usual northern lights. It just hung there, stretching for hundreds of miles, covering quiet towns in Illinois and nearby states with a mysterious glow that's hard to describe. Gray clouds drifted slowly, with faint lightning flickering inside, making the whole thing feel like a half-awake dream, beautiful but unsettling. Scientists call this phenomenon STEVE, strong thermal emission velocity enhancement, a rare kind of glow tied to geomagnetic activity. According to Science Alert, these bands of light can be hundreds of miles wide and show up outside the usual predictions from atmospheric models. But no matter how scientific the name sounds, seeing it in person can't fully be explained by words like that. Luke 21:11 once warned, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven." End quote. That night, the sky wasn't pitch black like normal. It had this cold, metallic green hue that made you feel like you were standing under some invisible gateway. A lot of folks stood quiet, filming it on their phones. Others just froze in place. Nobody said it out loud, but everyone felt the same thing. Something wasn't normal anymore. Joel 2:30-31 says, "I will show wonders in the heavens before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord." Still, the arguments started up quick. One side says it's just a rare atmospheric event caused by hot ion streams and Earth's magnetic field, no supernatural meaning at all. The other side wonders, why are these rare things happening more often, right when the world's reeling from disasters, diseases, and chaos? Matthew 24-29 puts it plain. The powers of the heavens will be shaken, as a straightforward warning. Between the two views, the people who saw it can only tell what their eyes took in. A sky that changed color, a deep unease settling in, and a night unlike any before. Science explains how it works, but the Bible talks about what it means, and that gap between them is what really makes you think. The green light finally faded, the sky went back to normal, but the questions hung around. If these great signs from heaven have started showing up, then what else might those little creatures down here on Earth, the disappearing insects or the ones acting strange, reveal next? 6. Thousands of bugs swarm in Iowa's cornfields, flying wildly. At first, everything looked completely normal. On the vast cornfields of Iowa, the wind blew steady. The sky was pale blue, and the crops seemed to be growing right on schedule, like they always do in the Midwest. But then, from the edge of the field, tiny black specks started showing up, more and more, thicker and thicker, as if the ground was stirring, getting ready to say something nobody wanted to hear. In just a few hours, thousands of locusts and other insects shot up into the air all at once, forming chaotic living clouds. They bumped into each other, changed direction suddenly, blocked out the sunlight, making everything feel stifling and scary. Standing there in the middle of the field, you got the sense that nature was losing control right overhead, like a warning bell had just been rung hard. According to reports from the BBC, animals and insects often act strangely before big natural disasters like floods or earthquakes because they're sensitive to changes in air pressure, humidity, and electric fields. But what gave a lot of folks chills was that just a few days later, heavy rain poured down without stopping. Water rose fast, and flash floods swept away those same green cornfields, leaving behind mud and the quiet despair of the farmers. Exodus 10:14-15 once described it. The locusts came up over all the land of Egypt. They covered the face of the earth so that the land was darkened, and they ate all the plants. That Bible passage isn't just old history. It echoes like a serious charge when modern fields get covered by insects and disaster too. Joel 1-4 goes on to stress the chain of destruction that follows, leaving no way back for life. Ecologists say this is a natural result of extreme weather and insect breeding cycles, a pure biological response. That explanation has clear science behind it, and you can't deny it. But for many people, the timing of the insect swarm, then the heavy rain and flash floods, raises a question that's hard to avoid. Is this just coincidence, or a message repeated in different ways? Revelation 9-3 talks about small creatures given power to bring trouble, like a warning against human pride. When the crops get ruined, it's not just food that's gone. The feeling of security washes away with the floodwaters. It's a reminder that life is more fragile than we like to think. Whether you look at it from science or faith, one thing can't be denied. Those insect swarms showed up before the disaster, not after. And it's that order of events that makes so many folks stop and think. What do you think? Is it just a natural, biological reaction, or a warning sent through the tiniest creatures? The insects flew up like an alarm signal. The crops collapsed in the floods. But if the ground is still hiding quiet movements deep below, what's waiting for us in the next step of this chain of signs? 7. Thousands of fish burrowing up from the ground in a mysterious way. At first, this story sounds so hard to believe, it's almost impossible to accept. Right in the dry Arizona desert, where the ground is cracked and the hot wind stings your skin, people suddenly saw something that went against everything they knew. Fish, not dead ones, but live fish, coming up from deep in the earth, like the desert had just opened its mouth. From small cracks in the ground, dark water started seeping out, and then all of a sudden, thousands of fish poured through, thrashing around, jumping up, their wet bodies shining on the hot sand. They formed a thick stream, crawling over the hard, dry land, surviving in a strange way, in a place that's not meant for underwater life. That moment makes you shiver, because things that shouldn't exist are right there in front of you. According to geological records, the Southwest has ancient underground water channels that sometimes get triggered by heavy rain or small earthquakes. The USGS has noted that animals can act oddly before quakes, when pressure and the ground structure change. But what makes this event so haunting isn't just the fish appearing. It's how they survived and came up all at once, like they were guided by some unseen force. Ezekiel 47-9 says, "Every living creature that swarms will live wherever the river flows. There will be a great many fish." In this situation, that Bible verse sounds like a deeper explanation. Life can rise up from the most dead-looking places, not following the rules people expect, but alongside that, Hosea 4-3 warns about a world where everything wastes away. The land looks sad, like two opposite sides of the same message. Scientists explain it through geology and biology. The fish get carried by underground water flows and come up when the ground shifts. That makes sense with data and models to back it up. But the Bible view asks a different question. Why do these signs keep happening all at once? Right when the world is shaking with disasters, wars, and trouble everywhere. Revelation 16-3 talks about the waters and life turning upside down, like a picture of total chaos coming. Two explanations, two different foundations. One science, one faith. One looks for causes, the other for meaning. So what do you think is worth pondering more? Where the fish came from? Or why these impossible things are becoming common in times like these? Believe it or not, the desert isn't quiet anymore. The ground has opened up, and life has come out in a way no one saw coming. But if what's deep under our feet is starting to move, how much longer will the sky above stay the same as always? 8. A massive whirlwind drops suddenly from the sky. At first, there was no warning at all. The Arizona desert sky was clear blue. Sunshine spread even across the wide-open land. No clouds, no storm, no sign of trouble. Then from far off, a thin column of dust appeared, spinning slowly like it was checking out the ground, surprising anyone who saw this odd thing come out of total calm. In just a few minutes, that dust column swelled into a huge whirlwind, towering thousands of feet high, thick with sand and rocks, moving slow but overpowering. It didn't roar like a storm, but quietly swallowed up the space, blocking out the light, making even folks standing far away feel like the ground under their feet wasn't steady anymore. This whirlwind showed up under a bright sky with scattered clouds, going against what we usually picture for natural disasters. Dust got sucked up like an invisible hand was yanking hard from above, spinning wildly, sweeping away anything small in its path. Seeing that, it's hard not to wonder, why does nature show its power in such a puzzling way right when people are least on guard? Records from the NWS say dust devils can reach heights of thousands of feet when the ground heat varies a lot, especially in the southwest. But the size and strength of this one made many experts cautious, since it lasted longer than usual and moved in a clear direction, not fading quick like typical dust devils. Job 38:1 notes, "Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said," that Bible verse makes the image of a whirlwind more than just weather. It becomes a symbol of power and a voice from somewhere beyond our control. In that moment, the wind wasn't just blowing, it was like it was speaking. Ezekiel 1-4 describes a stormy wind with bright light and blazing fire coming from far away, bringing an overwhelming and holy fear. When you put it next to this desert whirlwind scene, many folks can't help thinking it's not just air moving, but a warning written in sand and wind. Of course, debate broke out right away. Meteorology explains it with heat convection and open terrain, seeing it as a rare natural event but not supernatural. That view has solid science behind it. Still, plenty of people ask, if it's just natural, why do these rare things keep happening one after another in this time of global unrest? Revelation 7:1 talks about winds being held back, waiting for the moment to be released. From a faith perspective, that whirlwind seems like part of a power being revealed bit by bit, reminding us that nature is never truly tamed. The whirlwind finally faded. The desert went quiet again, but that feeling of awe lingered a long time. If wind from high up can drop down unexpectedly like that, then when roads and vehicles face rising floods, what will come next in this chain of signs? 9. A car swallowed and swept away by the flood. On a bridge in Southern California, where thousands of cars pass quietly every day, no one expected that in just a moment, the familiar road would turn into a raging river. One question comes to mind for those who saw it. What happens when nature no longer follows the safe predictions people rely on? Heavy rain from those atmospheric storms poured down hard, with water rushing in from upstream like a dam had burst. The flood rose fast, turning murky brown, swirling and carrying dirt, rocks, branches, and trash. In that sea of water, a car suddenly popped up, tossing wildly, completely out of control. The car was no longer just a vehicle. It became a clear reminder of how fragile human inventions can be. It slammed into the bridge railing, windows shattered, metal bent and twisted. Then the fierce current yanked it away like it had never been there. The crowd gathered on the bridge could only stand and watch, helpless as it all happened right in front of them. Psalm 46:2-3 puts it this way, "Though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging, we will not fear." When nature gets angry, all the solid foundations we trust can shake in an instant. Local authorities quickly sent out urgent warnings, telling people to stay away from bridges, culverts, and low-lying areas. But those alerts came amid the chaos, when the water was already beyond control. Statistics, disaster plans, and weather tech all seemed small compared to the raw power of the flood. Matthew 24-39 talks about a similar moment. They knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away. That's what makes disasters so scary. The surprise of it all, hitting hard at our belief that we can always prepare for anything. Some say this was just a regular flash flood caused by heavy rain and city development on the land. But when similar scenes keep happening in different places with the same intense force, people start asking about the deeper meaning behind these signs. Revelation 18:21 says, "With such violence, the great city of Babylon will be thrown down, never to be found again." When the flood snatched that car away in a split second, it brought to mind a stark picture of how suddenly things we think are solid can collapse. The car broke apart and vanished in the swirling water. But the bigger question hangs in the air. If a vehicle can be swallowed up that easily, what will the whole town downstream face when the flood hasn't stopped yet? 10. The flood came in like a tsunami and swept away a whole small town area. Everything happened so slowly at first, almost strangely slow. The river rose inch by inch, the sky hung heavy and gray, and the air felt like it was holding its breath. Then a question comes to mind for all of us. If in just a few minutes, a familiar place could vanish completely, would we even have time to get ready? When that atmospheric river dumped all its water on the rural areas along the river in California, the flooding wasn't just regular heavy rain anymore. It rose several feet in no time, broke through the levees, and rushed into the town like a tsunami without any warning siren. Roads disappeared, and the line between the river and people's homes just got wiped out. From drone views, the scene looked like a small-scale end of the world. Hundreds of cars got swept away, crashing into each other like toys. Roofs got ripped off, walls collapsed, old trees uprooted. The muddy water swirled around, carrying away the life this town had built over decades. Luke 21:25-26 describes that kind of terror just right. There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea. People will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world. When floodwaters roar through dry land like that, the fear isn't just a prediction anymore, it becomes real. The damage numbers came out quick. Hundreds of homes no longer livable. Many neighborhoods completely cut off. Infrastructure shut down. Families lost their homes. Savings built up over a lifetime washed away in a few hours. Amid all the wreckage, the quiet after the flood felt even heavier than the roaring before it. Joel 3:15 rings out like a dark milestone. The sun and moon will be darkened, and the stars no longer shine. When the familiar light of everyday life gets blocked out, people face an emptiness and helplessness like never before. Some folks say climate change and extreme weather explain it all well enough. But when the destruction goes way beyond any backup plans, when nature acts like one big united force, the question of judgment isn't so easy to brush aside. Revelation 16:18 puts it plainly, no holding back. There were flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a great earthquake, such as there had never been since man was on the earth. So great was that earthquake. A flood that sweeps away a whole town isn't just a disaster, it's like the final exclamation point on a long string of warnings. This isn't some isolated event anymore. It's the peak of one sign after another. The warnings have gone out, the cost has been seen. And since this disaster isn't the end yet, the question left for each of us is, if the next sign hits even more suddenly, will you just stand and watch, or get ready for the day when there's no way back? 10 moments have passed, like 10 bells ringing out in the dark night of our time. From angry oceans, shaking earth, changing skies, to floods that sweep away human lives, none of these stand alone. They're all connected in one unbroken chain of signs, like repeated reminders that the world is entering a serious turning point. Matthew 24:7-8 warned us plainly, "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." All these are but the beginning of the birth pains. When natural disasters come, one after another, fierce and beyond human control, the question isn't what's happening anymore, it's what are we being reminded of? These disasters don't just destroy homes and take lives. They also show how fragile our so-called strong civilization really is. Science can explain how they work, governments can issue reports, but no system can guarantee full protection against power far beyond our reach. In that helplessness, the call to return to faith becomes clearer than ever. Ezekiel 18:30 sounds like a direct appeal. "Repent and turn from all your transgressions, lest iniquity be your ruin." This chain of signs isn't meant to spread hopeless fear, but to wake up our conscience, call us to repentance and change, before the door of grace closes. The world today feels like it's standing on a thin edge, where each new sign could be the point of no return. Revelation 3:3 reminds us, "Remember then what you received and heard, keep it and repent." When time is running short, waking up can't be put off. This is the moment each of us is invited to pause, look honestly at our own life, turn back to prayer, and place our trust in the Lord, not out of fear, but out of hope for His protection and guidance. If a prayer, a thought, or an awakening has just been stirred in you, feel free to leave it in the comments as your own testimony in this hour. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss any of the signs that are being and will be revealed, because each one could be the final warning for this generation. Thank you to everyone who watched to the very end, and may the Lord keep you and your family safe from all harm and grant you peace in these troubled times. Amen.
The earth breathing, ancient and alive in a surge of fiery motion, 5 volcanoes.
Black Diamond Pool at Yellowstone now.
You know all about the Old Faithful geyser at Yellowstone National Park, but this is even more.
A rare sight at Yellowstone National Park today, a hydrothermal explosion.
National Park, the very close call with a geyser raining.
What if the most peaceful spot in America turned out to be the starting point for the biggest disaster in human history? If Yellowstone, that famous national park with its hot springs and great scenery, was really hiding a fury that could wipe out a whole continent in just a few days, would you believe we're still safe? Right now, deep under that ground that seems so still, magma is shifting around, pressure is building up, and the surface is quietly rising. Unusual hydrothermal explosions, long strings of earthquakes, and spiking measurements aren't showing up here and there anymore. They're hitting all at once, fast and without warning. Yellowstone isn't quiet anymore. It's sending out signals that we can't ignore any longer. The problem isn't just one volcano. What's scarier is the timing. When the movements under Yellowstone line up with big upheavals all over the planet, you've got to ask, is this just geology, or is it part of a bigger chain of signs that the Bible warned about? Do you feel like the pace of the world is speeding up? Do you notice everything is happening so fast, so perfectly timed, so right on cue? If Yellowstone is really waking up, then the question isn't whether it'll erupt, it's where we stand in all this. And to figure that out, we have to start with what's going on right under Yellowstone, right now. So, don't skip any of this information, and come along with me as we dig deep into the truth that God has placed behind these earthquakes. Yellowstone is waking up. What if the safest spot in America turned out to be the starting point for a disaster we couldn't stop? Yellowstone isn't just a national park with hot springs and tourists anymore. Right now, under that calm-looking ground, something huge is stirring, building up, and sending out signals that make anyone watching feel uneasy. That worry doesn't come from imagination. It's from the numbers that keep going up day by day, hour by hour. While we're going about our usual lives, Yellowstone is moving to a different rhythm. Pressure is building, the ground is swelling, and the monitoring systems are shaking non-stop, like they're trying to tell us something. And if you pay close attention, you'll see those signs aren't scattered or rare anymore. They're coming fast and thick, too many to brush off. On June 12, 2025, at Black Diamond Pool in Biscuit Basin, Yellowstone, a sudden hydrothermal explosion ripped through the quiet. A column of boiling water and rock debris shot hundreds of feet into the air in just seconds. Visitors panicked and ran. Trails were closed, and the videos spread quickly, putting Yellowstone under special watch by scientists. Just weeks earlier, Steamboat Geyser, the world's tallest geyser, had erupted strongly on April 14, and then again in the summer, with water temperatures around 192 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not the usual pattern. The USGS noted these changes happening in a tight cluster, not spread out like in past years. making questions about Yellowstone's hydrothermal system more urgent than ever. According to official data, Yellowstone averages more than 1,500 earthquakes a year. But in 2025, earthquake swarms showed up, with unusual density and length, focused deep under the caldera that's about 30 by 45 miles wide. These small but steady shakes don't damage buildings, but geologists watch them closely because they show shifts in pressure and hot fluids below. Precise GPS stations, accurate to the millimeter, show the ground swelling noticeably in some areas, while sulfur dioxide gas is escaping at higher levels than normal. The chemistry in many hot springs has changed suddenly, pointing to disruptions in the underground paths for heat and gas. All this data comes from over 50 seismic and monitoring stations running non-stop, not guesses. USGS scientists explain that this could be normal activity for a living supervolcano, with the odds of a big eruption around 1 inch 730,000 each year. They say there's no sign of new magma rising fast, and Yellowstone has gone through these breathing cycles before without disaster. But that's where a real concern starts, because in 2025, Yellowstone isn't alone in the bigger picture. Looking wider, the world saw about 63 eruptions from 58 different volcanoes that year. From Klyuchevskoy in Russia's Kamchatka sending ash about 6 miles high on August 4, to Reykjanes in Iceland erupting strongly in July before pausing early August, the Earth's rhythm seems oddly in sync. Even spots without eruptions showed notable unrest. Campi Flegrei in Italy kept swelling and having more earthquakes, based on studies released in May 2025, while Mount Spur in Alaska had ongoing issues from 2024 into March 2025. When you put these hotspots next to Yellowstone, it's not just about each one separately. It's about what the whole system might be heading toward. Revelation 8-5 says, "And the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake." That wasn't written as science, but it's eerie when we see fire, shaking, and noises from deep underground happening at the same time all over the planet. The USGS and other science groups stress there's no sign Yellowstone is about to erupt in some doomsday way. They point to data models, geologic history, and stats to calm people down. Those points are solid in pure science, but they leave open another question. Is science seeing the pieces, but missing the full picture? Isaiah 24-19-20 says, "The earth is violently broken. The earth is split open. The earth is shaken exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall totter like a hut." That's not tied to one place. It's about a global state where the usual stability is gone. When Yellowstone shakes, well, the whole planet does too. Calling it coincidence gets harder to buy. Yellowstone might not erupt, but it's not sleeping quietly either. The signals it's sending are loud enough to make us stop and face reality. The system we're living on is more fragile than we think. And if this is just the warm-up, the big question isn't, when will it blow? But what are we getting ready for next? Because if Yellowstone is just the opening chapter, then all these volcanoes waking up around the world might be telling a much bigger story. One that, when the last piece falls into place, we'll wish we'd listened to the warnings from the start. Global Volcanic Chain 2025. Eruptions, tremors, explosions. The year 2025 didn't start quietly. Instead, it kicked off with a series of rumbles from deep in the earth, happening at the same time across different continents. From the Pacific Ring of Fire to the North Atlantic mid-ocean ridge, from Asia to the Americas, ash clouds, lava flows, and red alerts popped up so often that the global volcano map looked crowded with hardly any empty spots. In just 1 year, the world saw more than 63 eruptions from 58 volcanoes, a number that's pretty startling when you think about the planet's usual rhythm. geological monitoring centers kept posting updates, and international news outlets ran one breaking news headline after another, like they couldn't catch a break. The overall feeling spread. This wasn't just some local events anymore. Based on compiled data, from January to December 2025, the number of eruptions went above the yearly average, which usually sits around 50 to 70. What stood out wasn't just the count, but how they happened at the same time. Places thousands of miles apart, lighting up in the same window, giving the Earth an unusual beat. On the 4th of August 2025, Klyuchevskoye in Kamchatka, Russia, blew up strongly, sending an ash column about 6 miles high. Flights got rerouted, and thousands of people had to evacuate quickly. Satellite images showed the ash cloud spreading fast, reminding everyone that even an eruption in a remote spot can affect things far away. Around the same time, the Reykjanes Peninsula in Iceland kept up its lava flows from July into early August. Bright red molten rock poured over older lava fields, turning the area into a sea of fire, covering several square miles. Local authorities raised alerts multiple times, while folks living nearby stayed on edge for months. In the Americas, Popocatépetl, the volcano close to busy population centers in Mexico, started shaking with earthquake swarms in November, ending a fairly quiet stretch that had lasted decades. Thermal cameras picked up clear changes, forcing officials to tighten no-go zones and keep reassuring the public. According to the Smithsonian, by September 2025, 44 eruptions were still going on or had just wrapped up, with activity picking up sharply after a quieter period before. A report from geophysicist Stephen Burns, released in November 2025, pointed out that the worry wasn't only the numbers, but how ongoing and widespread these events were. When you look at this global eruption chain alongside what's happening at Yellowstone, things start to connect more clearly. Earthquake swarms in the Yellowstone caldera happened around the same time as unrest at Campi Flegrei in Italy, where the ground kept lifting and small quakes increased, based on research published in May 2025. In New Zealand, Taupo hadn't had a big eruption, but it stayed under close watch because of changing background signals. In that setting, our feelings shifted from just keeping up with the news to watching a chain of events roll out too fast to get used to. With alert maps constantly changing colors, staying calm got harder. Matthew 24:7 records Jesus' words, "For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places." This Bible verse doesn't give scientific details, but it echoes like a warning when earthquakes in various places isn't abstract anymore. It's headlines repeating in geology reports. Of course, not everyone sees these events through a prophecy lens. Many volcanologists say 2025 just shows the natural ups and downs of a living planet. GeoNet in New Zealand confirms Taupo hasn't shown serious unrest signs, and USGS keeps stressing there's no evidence of a super eruption coming soon. Their reasoning comes from long-term stats, geological models, and thousands of years of eruption history. From that view, a bunch of volcanoes active in the same year doesn't have to mean something special. It's just a coincidence in natural cycles. Science here takes a careful approach and avoids jumping to conclusions. Still, some observers argue that approach misses a key part: the global pattern. Smithsonian Daily Reports in December 2025 noted times with up to 22 notable geological events in a short span. For them, it's not about individual volcanoes, but the hard-to-explain synchronization. Between those two views, the question moves from who's right or wrong to how should we make sense of this? When scientific data says one thing and the sense of something unusual says another, personal belief and interpretation come into play. Revelation 6:12 describes, "The earth shook violently, the sun became black as sackcloth, and the moon became like blood." For many, that's symbolic imagery. But when fire, ash, and shaking hit multiple continents at once, those words take on a different feel. Not distant, not vague, At this point, calling the global eruption chain the Lord's Roar or just normal geological activity depends on how each person reads the signs. What's certain is that 2025 shook up the sense of stability the world was used to, forcing us to face bigger questions about what's ahead. So, what do you think? When volcanoes around the planet all speak up together, is it just nature's random chance? Or a warning we're trying to explain in the safest way for ourselves? It's not a question to panic over, but one to think about our place in the bigger picture. Because if this global volcano activity is just the next chapter after Yellowstone, then the story clearly isn't over. And when fires have started in so many places at once, what the world faces next might not be about if, but how. The fire of judgment. It's no longer just faint rumbles deep underground or scattered signals that get overlooked in technical reports. Under Yellowstone, what's building right now is a mass of energy big enough to rewrite Earth's history. Fire isn't just a metaphor anymore. It's real, heavy, smoldering, and unforgiving. And in this moment, we're all standing pretty close to that edge. Maybe you've felt it yourself. That nameless unease when news about volcanoes, earthquakes, gas releases, and ash clouds come so thick and fast you can hardly catch your breath. We're not reading the news the same way we used to. We read it on high alert, like we're waiting for something to push the world past its breaking point. Under the seemingly peaceful ground of Yellowstone National Park lies one of the most complex magma systems on the planet. Geophysical studies show the main magma chamber sits about 3 to 10 miles deep, stretching across an area roughly 30 by 45 miles, holding thousands of cubic miles of molten rock at around 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit. This isn't the thin, runny basalt magma you see elsewhere. It's thick rhyolite, sticky, and high in silica, the kind known for causing massive eruptions. In 2025, USGS monitoring stations recorded an unusual rise in sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide gases escaping from fumaroles. The chemistry in some hot springs shifted suddenly, with higher levels of chloride and silica in a short time. Ground in parts of the caldera swelled by a few inches over just months, a rate that's fast for normal geologic cycles. At the same time, earthquake swarms weren't just small, isolated clusters anymore. Many lasted weeks, focused at depths of 5 to 10 miles, pointing to fluids and gases moving under high pressure. These are the kinds of signs volcanologists watch closely, since they show the magma system down below is rearranging itself. Revelation 8-7 says, "The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth. A third of the earth was burned up, a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up." In this context, that image of fire isn't abstract anymore. It lines up directly with the heat, ash, and lava that could cover hundreds of thousands of square miles in a huge eruption scenario. Yellowstone isn't the only hotspot. 2025 saw a spread of strong volcanic activity around the world. Merapi in Indonesia kept erupting lava and pyroclastic clouds in November, forcing tens of thousands to evacuate. Kilauea in Hawaii had a major outburst, with lava flows traveling miles in just hours. On Martinique, Mount Pelée entered a new phase of unrest after decades of relative quiet. Notably, Mount Spur in Alaska, a stratovolcano near key flight paths, recorded deep earthquakes down to 15 miles in March 2025, along with rising gas emissions. These events, seen alongside Yellowstone, paint a troubling picture, pressure building in several large magma systems at once. Revelation 16:18 says, "Then there came flashes of lightning, rumblings, peals of thunder, and a severe earthquake. No earthquake like it has ever occurred since mankind has been on Earth. So tremendous was the quake." This isn't describing one isolated event. It's a global state where earth, fire, and air all cross the line of stability at the same time. Still, in the scientific community, there are plenty of differing views. Some volcanologists say Yellowstone is just going through its natural breathing cycle, periods of swelling and sinking from shifting magma and hydrothermal fluids. Studies published in Science and Nature in 2024 and 2025 stress that there's no direct evidence yet of magma rising to the surface on a scale that would lead to a super eruption. This view rests on seismic data, imaging, and Yellowstone's hundreds of thousands of years activity history. By their numbers, the odds of a VEI-8 eruption in any given year are extremely low. It's solid science, based on models and statistics. But the question is, when major volcanic systems worldwide are getting restless at the same time, is looking at each one separately still enough? Or are we missing a bigger picture, where deeper changes inside Earth are affecting global geologic processes? From a faith perspective, the Bible doesn't give charts or probabilities. Instead, it lays out a clear charge against humanity's condition. Isaiah 24:19-20 says, "The earth is broken up, the earth is split asunder, the earth is violently shaken. The earth reels like a drunkard, it sways like a hut in the wind. So heavy upon it is the guilt of its rebellion that it falls, never to rise again." Here, the shaking of the earth ties straight to the weight of sin. In that way of thinking, fire isn't just a physical thing, it's a consequence. It's a response. When pressure builds too long, when imbalance goes too far, release becomes unavoidable. That's true in geology and in theology. Yellowstone, in this light, becomes a frightening symbol, not because it'll definitely erupt tomorrow, but because it shows the earth isn't at rest anymore. It's under strain, much like human society is under moral, spiritual, and faith-related strain. Revelation 6:12 says, "I watched as he opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red." This is the language of total crisis, where the familiar pillars of the world lose their shape. At this point, the question isn't really whether Yellowstone will erupt. It's how we're reading these signs, as scattered data points needing more study, or as warnings that make us look at ourselves. If this fire of judgment is truly part of a larger process, it doesn't stand alone. After the fire, Scripture talks about trumpets, sounds not from deep in the earth, but from higher up, where judgment isn't a hint anymore, it's a declaration. The lingering question is, when that trumpet sounds, will humanity be ready to listen, or still busy arguing it's just nature's noise? The first trumpet has sounded. Everything started with an unusual quiet, like the earth holding its breath. Yellowstone wasn't roaring, but it was whispering, and that whisper made the air feel tense, like the moment right before a trumpet touches an angel's lips. The early shakes weren't big enough to scare folks, but they were steady enough to make people uneasy. The seismographs picked up small vibrations, one after another, without stopping. It wasn't just one earthquake, but a series, a swarm, thick and long-lasting, like a heartbeat, speeding up. In 2025, more than 1,500 small earthquakes were recorded in the Yellowstone area. Many happened deeper than 3 miles, with some clusters going almost 6 miles under the surface. The strength didn't go over 3 on the scale, but the number was unusual. The ground didn't crack open, but it kept trembling. Around the same time, in Nomos Grevenon in Greece, a 2.3 magnitude quake was noted. Small on its own, but when you look at the big picture worldwide, it becomes another note echoing along. Seismic spots thousands of miles apart started showing up in the same time periods. Revelation 8:1-2 says, "When the Lamb opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Then I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them." Silence always comes before the trumpet. Yellowstone is right in that quiet moment. In June 2025, the Black Diamond Pool area sent out low rumbles that spread through the magma rock below. It wasn't an eruption or a steam blast, but a slow shifting. Geologists called it hydrothermal unrest, but no one could explain why it was picking up so fast. By December, Data from the Smithsonian showed an average of more than 22 small shakes a day at Yellowstone. There wasn't a truly quiet day. These vibrations were like steady knocking on a rock door, not breaking it, but not stopping either. The question isn't what's happening anymore, but what is it getting ready for? It's not just Yellowstone. In August 2025, the Klyuchevskoy volcano in Russia erupted, followed by a bunch of aftershocks. At Campi Flegrei in Italy, hundreds of small quakes hit in a few weeks, lifting the ground inch by inch. These hotspots are thousands of miles apart, but they woke up at the same time. Matthew 24:7 says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places, not just one spot, not one country, but in various places." The happening all at once is the real sign. Science steps in to calm things down. AI models looked at the earthquake swarms and said they were benign, harmless, not leading to an eruption. Reports from places like the Alaska Volcano Observatory showed thick shake sequences that ended without disaster. Yellowstone, they say, is just breathing. But that view misses a key thing: antipodal effects. Seismic waves don't just travel. They bounce, interfere, and trigger stress spots around the world. Supercomputer simulations late in 2025 showed swarms could sync up unstable areas thousands of miles away. Joel 2:1 says, "Blow the trumpet in Zion, sound the alarm on my holy hill. Let all who live in the land tremble, for the day of the Lord is coming." The trumpet doesn't have to be a sound you hear with your ears. It could be tremors, vibrations, a rhythm that makes the whole earth shake. If science calls it data, the Bible calls it a warning. One side measures in magnitude and miles, the other in how awake people's hearts are. Two different ways to read it, but both pointing the same direction. The earth isn't as steady as it used to be. Do you ever wonder, if this is just random, why are all these unstable spots waking up together? And if it's natural law, why did the Bible describe that exact rhythm thousands of years ago? Revelation 8-7 goes on. "The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth." Before the disaster comes the trumpet. Before the trumpet, the shaking. Yellowstone hasn't erupted yet, but the ground has started answering back. You don't need a big blast to call it the beginning. Just a steady tremor, long enough, wide enough, to make the whole planet listen. The first trumpet doesn't tear the sky open, it makes the ground shake, little by little, reminding us that time isn't standing still. And if the trumpet has already sounded in the silence, then how fast is the clock ticking for the end times? The countdown clock to the end times has started ticking. This clock isn't hanging on a wall. It's buried deep under layers of rock, miles thick, where Yellowstone keeps shifting and moving. Every little quake, every time the ground swells up or sinks down, feels like an unstoppable tick-tock. If that clock has already started running, the real question isn't when, but are people paying attention to those countdown beats? The data coming in during 2025 doesn't leave much room for ignoring it. Ground swelling at Yellowstone measured several inches in just a few months, with sulfur dioxide and carbon dioxide gases rising in unusual ways, based on geophysical reports released late in the summer. This isn't just one lone sign, it's a series of them, linking together, making it feel like time is getting squeezed, as if everything is speeding up towards something big. When Yellowstone stirs, the rest of the world doesn't stay quiet. From Popocatépetl in Mexico with its ongoing unrest episodes in November, to Iceland calming down in August but still on high alert, the global picture shows a pattern that's hard to miss. Not every spot is erupting, but restless activity is popping up across major fault lines, like the Earth is entering a long stretch of tension. In that setting, the Bible doesn't come across as just an illustration. It's like a final judgment already written out. Isaiah 24:19-20 says, "The earth will break apart, the earth will crack open, the earth will shake violently, the earth will stagger like a drunk, sway like a hut in the wind. Its sin will weigh heavy on it. It will fall, never to rise again. These words aren't describing a quick moment. They paint a lasting state for a world that's gone past its limits. From this view, Yellowstone isn't just a supervolcano anymore. It turns into a symbol of the earth shaking, where pressures built up over ages start breaking through. The clock doesn't tick with second hands. It's measured by the earth's patience running out against human sin and indifference. Still, not everyone sees it the same way. Many scientists say there's no solid proof of a big eruption coming soon, and the current signals fit within the normal ups and downs of a complicated geological system. That view relies on stats, past eruption records, and the limits of today's forecasting tech. From a pure science angle, that caution makes sense. But right at the crossroads of those views, questions about faith start ringing out loud. If science talks about odds and scenarios, the Bible talks about meaning and consequences. Between those two perspectives, everyone has to ask themselves, are these shakes just physical movements or a moral wake-up call for all of us? Revelation 11:18 records a clear judgment. The nations raged, but your wrath has come, and the time for judging the dead, and for rewarding your servants, and for destroying those who destroy the earth. Here, the earth isn't just a victim of natural forces, it's a witness to how people act. The judgment doesn't just drop from the sky, it's triggered by how humanity treats the world we live in. That doomsday clock, seen in this light, isn't just something scary, it's a call to wake up. Every rumble under Yellowstone is like the same question over and over. Will people keep living like they've never been warned, or stop and think about the path they're on? The kind of preparation the Bible calls for doesn't start with building bunkers or guessing dates. It's about turning away from wrong, changing our ways, and getting back to the core values of faith. When the ground shakes, what's really tested isn't just the rock beneath us, it's the moral foundation of our whole society. At this point, there are no easy comforts. The clock has started ticking, whether folks admit it or not. Yellowstone is just one place where the countdown feels clearer, more real, leaving no room for delay. And as the hands get closer to zero, the question isn't aimed outward anymore. It's pointed straight at each of us. If that day comes sooner than expected, is humanity's faith ready to face the final judgment? All the pieces are now fitting together. From the quiet rumblings deep under Yellowstone, to volcanoes waking up all over the world at the same time, to earthquakes that send ripples far beyond their borders and beyond what plain science can explain, everything is coming together into one clear picture. It's no longer scattered bits and pieces. This isn't just a story about rocks, fire, and pressure. It's the story of a world entering a time of deep unrest, where the familiar order is starting to shake and time doesn't feel carefree anymore. When you set this picture inside the bigger frame of the Bible, what's happening doesn't look random at all. Revelation 8:6-7 says, "The 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them. The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth." Those tremors from deep in the ground, the fires and ash covering the sky, it all echoes like that trumpet has already sounded, starting a series of warnings we can't ignore. The clock has started ticking, not with hands or numbers on a screen, but with every shake of the earth, every sign piling up at the same time in different places. Matthew 24-42 reminds us, "Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come." Humanity doesn't have much time left to put things off. No extra days to brush aside warnings that are ringing louder than ever. In the middle of all this unease, the main message isn't fear, it's turning back. This is the time when each of us is called to trust in the Lord, repent, wake up, and pray, not with empty words, but with a humble and honest heart. Joel 2:12 says, "Return to me with all your heart, with fasting and weeping and mourning." That's the only path to finding peace while the world shakes. If you're watching right to the end, take a quiet moment. Leave a prayer in the comments, or a thought, or just a cry from the heart. It's more than just commenting. It's a sign of a heart looking for light in the darkness. If this video has given you something to think about, please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss any future warnings or wake-up messages. Thank you for staying with me to the end. May the Lord give you and your family peace and protection in the days ahead. Amen. Have you ever wondered, if everything falls apart tomorrow, would we even notice the signs today? America, the land of skyscrapers and endless highways, is shaking. Natural disasters are hitting like invisible blades, tearing things apart, flipping them over, sweeping away everything we've proudly built. This isn't just cold coincidence anymore. It feels like an urgent whisper from above, coming faster and harder, warning that humanity is sliding quickly toward the final edge. From tornadoes ripping through homes in Illinois and Missouri, fierce winds flipping cars on bridges, lightning sparking fires in California, to floods swallowing vehicles in Oxford, Mississippi, massive swirling flocks of birds over Oklahoma skies, waterfalls turning into rainbows, shopping malls drowned in muddy water. 10 events, like 10 dark puzzle pieces, stretching from the Midwest to the West Coast, fitting together into a picture that makes it feel like time is running out. Do you think this is just news, or a wake-up call meant for us? If all these signs are showing up at once, the question is, how much time do we have left? Let's keep going, because these terrifying pieces are only just starting to come into view. And you won't have to wait long, because right below here we're going to start with 1. Full view of the tornado in a parking lot, homes torn to pieces. The video starts without any warning. In just the first few seconds, a normal parking lot in Mount Zion, Illinois, changes completely. That moment makes you hold your breath, like you're right in the middle of the storm. No one screams, no one has time to run. There's just the roar of the wind and that chilling feeling when you realize things we think are solid can vanish in an instant. You're watching it all through the shaky frames. The tornado doesn't come slowly. It hits like a bolt from the blue, ripping sturdy homes into hundreds of pieces, tossing cars around like toys, sweeping away metal roofs, power poles, and signs. The quiet parking lot from a minute ago turns into a battlefield, with debris flying everywhere, spinning in the air like invisible blades. The video doesn't need any narration. The pictures alone show how helpless people are against nature's power. Weather reports from the Midwest say tornadoes in Illinois and Missouri can reach speeds up to 150 miles per hour, flattening thousands of square feet in a flash. This extreme weather system isn't isolated. It stretches from Missouri to Kentucky, creating a chain of destruction. Looking at the video, it's not just one spot wrecked. You see a whole region being tested, like something bigger is at work behind those wild winds. When you put this scene next to the words in Matthew 24:7-8, the Bible seems to whisper a chilling hint. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginning of birth pains. The chaos in the video isn't called the end of the world, but it feels like the first knock on the door, warning that something more serious is getting closer. Of course, some people say this is just the result of climate change, the natural outcome of mistakes we've made to the environment. That explanation sounds reasonable. But when fierce tornadoes keep coming, one after another, with worse damage each time, viewers start to wonder, is this just plain science, or is it a deeper reminder, like the warnings in the Bible? Luke 21:11 adds to the picture by talking about great earthquakes, and fearful events, and great signs from heaven. The Mount Zion video doesn't claim to be a miracle, but it leaves viewers with a hard-to-name unease, like we're being shown a sign, not just a random disaster.